But these were questions about life. I asked myself, what is the purpose of our life? What am I here for? See, no one ever arrives anywhere without a reason, unless we are lost. Now, if we are not lost, we are there for a purpose. But every person is born with a promise inside them. We are born to bring out that promise and fulfill it. The joy is your inner compass.
Hi, this is Yana and you are watching YanaTV. And today with us we have Vikas from Soul Center, who is the founder, a best-selling author, an inspirational speaker, and a teacher for meditation, happiness, and mindfulness?
That's right.
And mindfulness.
I teach people mindfulness also.
It's very nice to have you here today, Vikas.
Thank you, Yana. I'm happy to be here. Thank
And
you.
you know, I heard a lot about your work. All positive.
Thank you so much. My God, that puts me
I saw
at
your
ease.
eyes, okay? So all positive. So people apparently love it and it changes lives.
Thank you.
And I would like to ask you the first question actually about you.
Okay.
And a little bit maybe about your family and your upbringing.
Okay.
What happened there so that you
All right.
kind of end up where you are today?
Okay. I'm originally from New Delhi, India, and I was born into a business family. So I grew up learning about business. My father was a first-generation entrepreneur. So he had started working when he was a teenager, and he had really worked hard and eventually started his own business. But I was brought up to be in business. You know, it was all around me as I was a young child.
Very interesting.
Yes.
Doesn't seem like a straight career path to where you are today.
It isn't, and it's a very amazing story, but when I was a teenager, I began to have a lot of questions inside me. I don't know where they came from, but these were questions about life. I asked myself, what is the purpose of our life? What am I here for? See, no one ever arrives anywhere without a reason, unless we are lost. Now, if we are not lost, we are there for a purpose, right? Like today, there's a purpose to this meeting.
Absolutely, because we want to share what you know with the world.
Absolutely. So my question was, what am I here to share with the world? And I came to a realization after a long search and after learning from people of wisdom that my purpose of life was different than just doing business. So that's what made me change my life at the age of 29. And I left as the CEO of our family-owned business, and I said I want to be a teacher of life skills.
Wow, in India, living in India.
Living in India, yes,
And
I
I know it's a
started.
rather traditional society.
Yes, but you know, India is also a very open-minded place in many ways. India is a country which encourages new ideas, new thoughts, but it discourages society changing very quickly.
Yes.
So there was a lot of encouragement for me from many different sources, but at the same time, I also felt that there was it was a society which did not understand what was happening.
Yeah.
You know, why would a young man who has such a wonderful position and a good family and essentially running a big business leave that and start something on his own? But that was the voice of my heart, and I had to listen. That was the purpose of my life. So that's how I started Soul Center.
That takes a lot of courage to do this.
It does, but you know, we all have it inside us.
Yeah?
Yeah, absolutely we do.
And your parents, was it easy or difficult to explain your decision to them? Because I'm asking because I know in the Asian contest, you know, that often when you do career choices, especially at the age when you're early 20s, early 30s,
Yes.
parents still play a rather big role, and you still have to somehow justify your decision in their eyes.
Absolutely.
So how did that go?
Yeah, you know, it's very difficult to take a truth that you have and share it with somebody else. So I could not explain clearly why I was doing it. I was driven. I knew it's something I had to do, but to put it across was a bit, I would say, difficult. But at the same time, I must say that my parents and my family, even though they may not have understood me fully, they encouraged what I was doing because they knew it was giving me some sense of joy and happiness, and this is what I was driven to do. So they encouraged me to do that. And of course, I must say that a few years later, when I had become very popular, very quickly, I won an award, and you know, people were talking about me. Of course, everyone was happy, right?
Yes, of course. They say that success in terms of traditional success, whatever the society understands as the success, usually people are very happy once you have it.
Of course.
So you started the Soul Center in India.
That's right.
And how did you get this idea? So, the name I understand, Soul Center, right? But then after studying with your teachers, this is how you decide to do this?
I know when I was studying with my teachers, all I wanted to do was to be a student. So I was looking for people of wisdom wherever in the world they were, and I would go there and learn from them. So all I wanted to do was to learn as a student. But at the age of 29, I went through a great awakening experience of my own, and that's what made me decide that I wanted to shift, and I wanted to spend the rest of my life giving people the greatest treasure, which is their own potential, showing them that every person has a potential inside, and then giving them a way on bringing it out. That's what I wanted to do with my life. So I started to write, I started to talk, and then eventually, when people came to me and said, teach us to live this way, the way you're talking, I needed to have a company to do that. I needed a space to do that. That's why I started Soul Center. The word soul represents our potential.
Yes. Hold on. You mentioned about the awakening experience. Well, you mentioned that.
Yes.
So would you be able to give us a bit more information? Like what, is it like a personal story? What happened there when you were 29?
Well, I was on the path of meditation. I had been meditating. I had been trying to live my life based on the ancient wisdom of what life is all about. And at the age of 29, I went through an experience in meditation, which made me clearly see that I was on a journey, this journey called life. It made me clearly see that I have potential inside. And that potential is the reason I've taken birth. And this is what I believe even today, and that's the central core message of everything I teach, that every person is born with a promise inside them. We come with that promise, but we have to fulfill it. And that's the promise of potential. Potential, as long as it's inside, is worth nothing for me or for others. But when I am able to bring out this potential, it can bring value to others, and then it will also bring value to me. We are born to bring out that promise and fulfill it. So I could clearly see that, and I had to follow. There was no other way for me to live.
So the soul calling was so strong.
Absolutely.
That you just surrendered.
I went with that flow. I became very clear on my life purpose, and there was no way for me to say no. It was something that was driving me and giving me that energy and that inspiration to take it forward. I wanted to make my life worthwhile.
So how we human beings do it? How do we actually bring out the potential?
The first thing everyone has to do is to figure out what that potential is, right? You have to identify it.
So how do you identify it?
And that's the learning journey that everyone must go on. We cannot just simply say, well, I want to be my best, if I don't even understand what my best is. So the first step is always to look inwards. The first journey we must all take to our highest self is an inward journey. Once we find our strengths, once we find our passions, from that we'll find our purpose of living. And then the second part of the journey is about giving it to others. Because I also believe that we are here to serve others. My whole life is dedicated to helping people being happy, being empowered, being successful at whatever they want. So eventually we must find that treasure inside us and bring it out in the service of others. And that is the purpose of our life.
So that's for you, given that you completely embrace this path of service, and helping others to reach their full potential.
Certainly.
But now if you translate it into the language, for people who live different lives, maybe they, run more conventional businesses,
Certainly.
right? Or maybe more conventional families, and their life focus is different. I mean, again, it's not better or worse, it's just different, right?
Sure.
So maybe they want to make their mark in a different way.
Certainly.
So for someone who just wants to live like very, very fulfilled life with purpose and at the same time serving others and be happy, like what is your way of advising them, how they can do this? Because if you say, look inwards,
Yes.
right, we need a bit more than that. So how do we do this? Is it like meditation, or what do we do?
Yeah, well, Yana, I have a whole training program that I've created essentially on this. How does one find that and bring it out? But let me simplify it here.
Yes, please.
In a few lines. The first thing every person needs to do is to realize that we are here to serve others in one way or another. My happiness, my joy, my fulfillment will not come if I'm only thinking of myself. Look at families, look at businesses, even conventional businesses. They are all producing either a product or a service or information. In other words, somebody's buying that from them, right? So they are serving people with something. Now, our work here is service, but what can we serve with? And to find that, every person must take that inward journey. So the questions we must ask ourselves is, what are my strengths? What are my natural passions? What gives me joy? I tell all my students that joy is your inner compass. You know, we need to have this compass about what's right, what's wrong, am I on track, am I not on track? And joy is your inner compass because it's been put inside you. All human beings anywhere in the world will naturally go towards what brings them joy. Take the joy away, they want to move away from that. This is true for relationships. If the relationship is joyful, you want to be there. It's true for work. If your work is joyful, every Monday you look forward to going to work. If your work is not joyful, you hate Mondays, right? So joy is our natural attraction. It's our inner compass. So we have to look for what brings us joy. What activity? What skill? And then the second question to ask is, what's my strength? What's my natural strength? Natural, nature, the same word, right?
Not something acquired, yes, something you
Exactly.
were born with, your natural born talents.
Exactly. So what has nature put into me, which I'm naturally good at, which I'm automatically, easily good at? Put those two factors combined and you've got the ingredients for understanding what you should serve with.
I like it. You know, I also like your point very much about the joy, because for people who are sometimes questioning whether they're making the right choice in life, and we all do from time to time, right? So based on your philosophy, if it doesn't bring joy, it's probably not the road you should be going.
Yes, but you must question it before you take a decision on the other side, which means that don't react. Even to make a decision about what brings you joy or non-joy should be a response to that event. It should not be a reaction to that event. In other words, let's say I'm in a relationship. It's been good for 5 years, now suddenly 6 months not so good. Now, if I react to this, it'll say to me, my mind will say to me, there's no joy in this, get away. Right? Follow your joy, follow your bliss. Joy is your inner compass, get away. But then I'm forgetting it's been good for 5 years. It's not been good for 6 months. Look at the ratio, 5 years versus 6 months. So I've got to train my mind to make the right choices here and to look at the bigger picture. And that's why this inward journey also requires me to meditate, to use mindfulness techniques, meditation techniques, to go inside and understand myself better, and to expand my mind to go from reaction to responses. Because essentially that's what's going to get me on the right path. So it's not about being impulsive. It's not about being spontaneous. I don't like something, I quit it. Then the first time I have a problem at my career or at my job, I'm going to quit and run. Right? But this is about living our highest potential, about doing the right thing. Sometimes it requires hard work, sometimes it requires sacrifices. But if it is bringing me joy long term, if it has given me joy before, and if it gives me a sense of fulfillment, even if today is hard work, I have to do it. So it's about making the right choices.
You know, it's very interesting. It's exactly, I was thinking about the word choices as you were talking, because you mentioned right choices several times.
Yes.
Now, it's a very interesting word for people, right? Because every human being ultimately wants to make the right choice about everything.
Of course.
It just sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So now, is there maybe like an easier way for people to actually make right choices and identify them first? Like, how do we do this in the easier way?
Yeah. So the first thing is that we are all making choices all the time. All the time. So, you know, for anyone to think I'm not making the choices of my life would be wrong, because we're making choices every day. What we have to do is evolve these choices. In other words, the choices we make must be made consciously, with awareness, with a little bit of thinking. And there must be choices for the long term, not the short term. As a person grows wiser, the choices become different because they have longer term consequences in mind. So my short term thinking goes away.
Yes. You don't go for the short term pleasures.
Exactly.
You go for the long term purpose.
Absolutely. I give up short term gratification for long term purpose, for long term gratitude, for long term benefits. So as my wisdom grows, as my understanding grows, my choices change. But here's the good news. Let's say I'm not wise. Let's say I make some choices and they're the wrong ones.
Yes.
Well, every choice is a good choice if I learn from it. So even if I make the wrong choices and I produce wrong results, if I learn from those wrong results, which people call failure or losses, then that served me. My future choices are better ones. So even wrong choices and wrong consequences serve a purpose. And the whole purpose is to make me grow.
And so for Vikas right now, personally, if you speak about growth, what would be the next stage for you in life?
That's a very interesting question. I must share my vision with you.
Yes,
all right?
please.
So
Please.
I started, as I told you, I left my family business, and at 29, I started Soul Center. I have been doing this for almost 19, 20 years now. And today, Soul Center is recognized as Asia's premier center for personal development. But my vision is to make it a global center, a global brand, a premier brand where everyone knows that they can find the skills that they need to find their own happiness and success. That's the idea, that's the vision. We have done the work in Asia, we continue to do it here. But now we want to take it and make it accessible to people all over the world. You know, I look at the news, I look at what's happening in the world.
They
and
need it.
People
Absolutely.
everywhere
People
need
need it,
happiness,
yes.
they need joy, they need purpose. People are lost. So we need to go there and shine the light and make what we do available for people everywhere.
Thank you so much, Vikas.
Yes.
And that was Vikas with us from the Soul Center with very profound wisdom and messages. So for you guys, do make sure you go inwards and you find out what are your strengths, what are your talents, what are you really good at. Follow your passion, follow your dreams, and we're going to talk to you next week.